Hi, I'm Curtis, and I built Match the Memory. I want to show you how you can create your own personalized matching game. Starting at the home page of matchthememory.com, you can click on the big Create button to get going. Since I'm not logged in yet, I can't create a game. I have to log in first, so I'll do that by clicking on the Twitter button. You can pick from Facebook, Google, Microsoft or Hotmail, Twitter, and Yahoo. On the Create a Game screen, the first thing you need to decide is the game's address, what people will use to get to your game. The final URL is matchthememory.com/youraddress. So if I were making a game about candy, I could enter candy for the address to make a game at matchthememory.com/candy. Of course, that game address is already taken, and its system tells me so I have to pick something else. Let's try chocolate-candy. That works. And the title automatically populates based on the address. I can change the title if I want. Make it say Chocolate Candy Brands instead. The title can contain any text, so it can be more descriptive, as opposed to the address, which is limited to letters, numbers, hyphens, and underscores. Next, I decide how many cards I want in my game, specifically how many pairs of matches there should be. Theoretically, I could put 100 different cards in a game if I choose, but realistically, since this is a game that I want people to have fun playing, I'll stick to a more reasonable 8 pairs. Next, I have to decide on the layout of all of my cards. I can pick Portrait, which is vertical, or Landscape, which is horizontal, or Square. Depending on what's going on to most of your cards, whether it's wider or taller or more squarish, you'll want to change this option. You can see as I select each of these options that the image previews over here on the right change to show what I'm making my cards look like. Since most of my candy bar pictures are very horizontal, I'll choose Landscape here. Now I get to choose whether I want this game to be public or not. Public means that it will show up on the site's play page and in searches, like these games. Making a game not public means that only people who know about the game can get to it, by manually typing the address or clicking a link that you send them. I'm going to make this game public so that people can find it on the site. The next option is the theme. This is a pre-packaged group of settings that controls the next few options in the list: background color and image, text color, text size, font, and card type. For example, I could pick this Family Memories theme, and it would automatically select teal as the background color and use the Bello font. But the theme is just a starting point. You can tweak each of these options afterward. For my candy game, I want to change the background color to a nice chocolatey brown. I'll also make the font color a simple white, which is one of the pre-selected options. Everything that we've picked so far applies to the game as a whole. The last few options are things that we can pick as a default for all of the cards on the game, but when we go in to edit those individual cards later on, we can change those defaults. So the next thing we get to pick is the default card type. I'll show you each of the types and an example of a game illustrating each type. The first 3 card types have both cards with the same content on them. The next 4 card types have something different on the first match and the second match. The simplest kind of game is just a text-only game, a word on one match and the exact same word on the other match. This is a game that I made listing the first 25 Fry sight words. You can see the matches are very simple. From matches from, and they matches they. If you've chosen text-only as your card type, you'll also see this word list box. It lets you put in a list of words or phrases, one per line, to automatically be added to your cards when you finish creating your game. I used this feature to create several Fry sight word games, and it took me about 10 seconds flat because of how easy the word list feature makes it. Okay, the next card type is also pretty simple. Picture only, as the name suggests, adds just a photo or drawing to your card and its match. Here's a simple shapes game that I made with the cards that are all picture only. If I click on the heart, you can see that its match is the heart. The next card type is text over picture, one of our most popular types. This dinosaur game shows that the text over picture card type has both matches containing a photo with text on top of it. You can use the words to label what's happening in the picture. The next card type is a little different. Text picture lets you put words on one match and an image on the other match. You can see in this sports equipment game that this card type lets you challenge the end user to identify what's happening in the picture. Which of these pictures is the volleyball? For this reason, this card type can be a bit harder than text over picture, while still presenting the same information. The next card type is text A, text B. This lets you put different words onto the matches. This card type is good for abbreviations, or mother and baby names like cow and calf, or capitals, as you can see in this US States and Capitals game. To win a game like this, you need to know that the capital of Arizona is Phoenix. Some people use the text A, text B card type to create a game showing a word on the first match and the definition of that word on the second match. I don't recommend doing that, because usually a definition is too long to comfortably fit onto a card, so you have to make the text really small. Rather, I suggest that you use a text-only card type to show the word itself, then put the definition of the word on the match pop-up that you can define in the edit screen, which I'll discuss in the next video. Our next card type is Picture A, Picture B, which gives you two different images, one on each card. This card type is good for before and after type games, or opposites. This Time for Work game shows another use of this card type, one that I consider kind of the traditional use of a matching game. Which of these things goes together? This game does that in the context of jobs. What item does a firefighter use? The hose. You could also do stuff like fork and spoon, or salt and pepper. The last card type is an extension of the previous one. Text over picture A, text over picture B lets you use different pictures for both matches, but also lets you give more information by labeling those pictures. A couple of quick examples of this card type. I mentioned on the Picture A, Picture B type that you could do opposites. This is an opposites game that also includes the words as well: hot, cold, happy, sad, etc. You can also use the same photo for both matches, but add a different text. My son used this card type to create a game showing computer parts in English and Spanish. You can see that he's got keyboard and teclado, mouse and ratón, etc. The next thing to choose is what the back of the cards will look like when you start the game, before the player starts flipping cards. Since all of the backs will be the same, you only get the three basic card types: text, picture, and text over picture. The last thing to choose before you finish making your game is the text placement. Where on the card the text will show up. Do you want it centered at the top or at the bottom left? Usually I think it looks best for most games to have the text centered in the middle or centered at the bottom. So that's the basics of setting up a game in general. Next, you just click the Create Game button, which will make the game for you and take you to the editor where you can flesh out the individual cards and some advanced options for the game. We'll get into that in our next video. For now, the game exists, but it's kind of bare until we finish editing it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the editor next time.